into the end zone, and Alexander Wright after
His speed was his meal ticket in the NFL, and Alexander Wright could run like the wind.
103 yards.
He played for 3 teams, the Cowboys, the Raiders, and the Rams. Fame and fortune followed him at every stop. During his 7-year pro career, he won the NFL's fastest man contest twice. But fueling his speed was a painful past that gave him good reason to run.
I lived my life on the move as a child. Most of my childhood life was lived in fear. Whenever my dad would come home drunk or inebriated, just wasted from alcohol or whatever substance he had taken that week or that night, he was just a different man. And a lot of time he didn't, all of a sudden the family member became his enemy.
You know why? Because this was on the front porch again. How many times I gotta tell you, pick up your toys, man?
His father's flare-ups were uncontrollable and unpredictable. Alexander's mother took action, taking her 4 boys and fleeing their home in Albany, Georgia, often for as much as 6 to 8 months at a time.
But she loved my dad, and we always came back home. 2 or 3 months would go by, we'd be home, everything would be tremendous peace. It'd be another blow up.
Alex, go to your room.
I can't.
Where you think you gonna go?
I can't.
What you think you gonna take the boys? You think you gonna leave?
He broke both my mom's legs, so she couldn't run away again. Literally broke her leg.
You wanna leave now? You gonna go? Let me see you.
His father's rage, his mother's screams. Alexander's innocence was shattered. He also tried to run.
My 10th grade year, I chose to try sports, to get out of my home, to get away. And that's when I started running track.
Alexander also tried out for football. His speed caught the attention of college scouts. He signed with Auburn, but never saw much playing time until he was a senior. In the final game of that season against rival Alabama, Alexander played a key role in Auburn's 30-20 victory.
The following week, I'm getting letters and I'm getting calls from NFL teams that all of a sudden that one game, none of the other game, just that one game. And now, all of a sudden, overnight, I'm a projected NFL prospect.
I knew everything about him. I knew where he was raised, been there, met his family.
College sweetheart and eventual wife, Verla Wright, entered their relationship with open eyes.
You know, the same things that he experienced as a child and what he saw his mother going through, you know, some of that was starting to come out as well.
I was becoming my dad, rebelling against authority, talking back to the coaches. I had serious issues with anger.
Shoves became punches. There was a couple times that I definitely had marks and things like that. It was very embarrassing.
What I was doing to my wife behind closed doors was not right, and I just knew it, but I never reached out for help.
And that's when life went from bad to worse. In 1991, after a subpar season, the Dallas Cowboys were making plans to end the relationship with Alexander, and so was Verla.
I'm on the verge of losing my job, on the verge of losing everything. My wife is already, has the papers sought for divorce.
But that same year, Alexander's mother accepted Jesus Christ as Lord back in Albany, Georgia. And when she learned a guest minister at her church was from Dallas, she sensed a divine appointment unfolding and approached the preacher.
She gave this man my number, told him to call me when you get back to Dallas. When you get back to Dallas, call Alexander. He does not know the Lord, and he's going to lose his wife.
Pastor Kenneth Mack of City of Bethlehem Church made the call. Surprisingly, Alexander accepted his invitation to meet, and for the first time, heard the message of salvation.
And what was taught to me that day, I understood crystal clear.
40 minutes into it, I mean to tell you, all of a sudden he just burst out weeping and crying and, you know, responding to that I wanted to be saved and responding to that I want the Holy Spirit and I want to be baptized.
You know, you hear about young baby Christians and how they're just so excited and, you know, in love with God, and that was him. It really was. I mean, you know, he was reading his Bible and he was doing Bible studies, you know, and I was just like, who is this guy, you know? And I'm like, is this for real? I was very cynical, and still, you know, dark spots would show up.
Yet Verla saw enough initial evidence of change in Alexander's life to believe in the redemptive power of God. Several months later, she too gave her life to Jesus Christ. But those dark spots Verla feared soon began to resurface. Alexander was still trying to run free from his past.
We had been married 9 years. We would still get into fights, and they would still wind up physical. And by this time we were saved long enough, and I was like, you know what, that's it. I said, these boys, I do not want them to wind up like you. And I said, and this daughter, I said, she is never going to think that it's okay to be hit by a man, or even be held by a man against her will, or any such thing. I said, is this the example you want to set for her? I said, do you want her to wind up with a boyfriend or a husband like you?
Verla's ultimatum led Alexander to finally seek help outside himself.
I mean, it was a process for me to walk through counseling with godly men, pastors, through my anger, to learn to be gentle, and then also to confess sins.
Do we get in arguments? Sure. But now, I don't have to even think that he will raise a hand to me. He's proven that, because I've tested him in those areas as well.
Today, Alexander and Verla enjoy the peace of God in their home and marriage. And yet, despite their healing, Alexander admits the pain of the past may never be easy to share.
I still run. I ran from this interview. I was pleading with God not to do this. Cried before this interview. 2 days ago, I know we're going to be discussing something that I probably don't want to discuss. I think I've been running all my life.
And it's because of the changes that have happened in him that have brought the changes about in me wanting to change, in me wanting to become more of a godly wife and more of a godly woman, because, you know, now I have reason.
You can apply the opposite and do double to gain weight.
He is very much the leader of this household. He is the spiritual leader. He is the financial provider. He is the man how God intended a man to be.